Hello everyone, my name is Archit Ghosh and I have qualified UGC NET in all my last 3 attempts. The reason for that is I study every topic thoroughly, and today we are going to study a very important part of critical theory, the Blue Humanities. Over the past few decades, literary studies has undergone a profound ecological turn. For centuries, our critical frameworks have been overwhelmingly terra-centric, meaning they were anchored to the land, viewing the earth as the primary site of human history, culture, and conflict. However, the Blue Humanities radically disrupts this notion. To understand this field comprehensively, we must look at its origin. The term Blue Humanities was first officially coined by eco-critic and scholar Stephen Mentz in the year 2009. At its core, it is a multidisciplinary field situated at the crossroads of literary history, cultural studies, and environmental humanities. When we analyze the representation of the ocean in a text, whether the text is a Renaissance play, an 18th century adventure novel, or a post-colonial poem, we are investigating how cultural texts construct our understanding of water, marine life, and human vulnerability. Furthermore, this field is inherently interdisciplinary. It refuses to stay confined within traditional English departments. Instead, it draws heavily upon environmental studies, anthropology, maritime history, ecological sciences, and climate change discourse for the UGC NET exam. Recognizing this interdisciplinary meshwork is crucial because questions often test your ability to link literary text with broader theoretical and scientific movements like the Anthropocene. To master advanced questions, you must be thoroughly familiar with the primary theorist of the Blue Humanities and the specific framework they introduced. Stephen Mentz, as the pioneer of the field, Mentz introduced the revolutionary concept of shipwreck ecology in his seminal work Shipwreck Modernity, which was published in 2015, and Oceans, published in 2020. Mentz argues that human existence modern world is fundamentally defined by shipwreck, meaning radical instability, constant vulnerability, and the recurring necessity of navigating environmental catastrophes. Instead of holding onto the illusion of human mastery over nature, Mentz asserts that human culture must learn to live inside fluid oceanic chaos. Elizabeth Delaury, in her landmark study Allegories of Anthropocene, champions post-colonial and environmental critique, focusing heavily on island ecologies and dialectics. She examines how small islands, developing states particularly in the Caribbean and the Pacific, bear the disproportionate brunt of climate change and rising sea levels. She brilliantly connects historical, imperial mapping and plantation economies with contemporary ecological vulnerability, demonstrating how ocean functions simultaneously as bridges of global connection and violent site of colonial partition. So for UGC NET, remember that she is associated with dialectics and allegories of Anthropocene. Next up, we have Dan Brayton, the writer of Shakespeare's Ocean, published in 2012. Brayton delivers a masterclass in eco-critical Elizabethan studies. He synthesizes Renaissance literature with maritime ecology, proving that early modern English drama and poetry are deeply invested in marine environments, oceanic life, and human dependencies on the sea, long before the advent of modern ecological movements. Another important theorist is Stacey Alamo, a prominent post-human critique. Alamo brings the concept of transcorporeality to oceanic studies. She argues that human bodies are never isolated entities. Rather, our flesh is materially, chemically, and physically interconnected with the ocean's global flows, industrial pollutants, microplastics, and wider marine ecosystems. Don't forget the concept of transcorporeality. And finally, we have Kamo Brathwaite, the brilliant Caribbean poet and critic who originated the concept of tie dialectics. Brathwaite defined tie dialectics as rhythmic, wave-like epistemology rooted in the Caribbean Sea. Unlike linear teleological Western historiography, tie dialectics moves back and forth like the ocean tides, using a maritime movement as framework to interpret post-colonial memory, cultural displacement, and historical trauma. So if the question is who first introduced the concept tie dialectics, the answer should be Kamo Brathwaite. The ocean has occupied a towering position in literary history from the very beginning. If we trace its evolution in the foundational 18th century text like Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, the sea represents a space of individual survival, shipwreck mechanics, and early capitalist colonial expansion. By the 19th century, Herman Melville's epic Moby Dick expands the ocean into vast existential and philosophical immortalized by Ishmael's profound observation that, within quotes, meditation and water are wedded forever, quotation close. This expansive literary tradition continues through Rachel Carson's ecological masterpiece, The Sea Around Us. Joseph Conrad's maritime-centered worldview, exposing the dark underside of imperialism, and Tobias Smollett's picaresque sea voyages. From a thematic standpoint, rigorous literary analysis of the ocean consistently reveals recurring motifs: the dynamic tension between land and sea, the permanent borderland where human civilization meets uncontainable aquatic wilderness, the ocean as a psychological metaphor, utilizing the deep sea to represent the human subconscious, the unknown, and the Brunken sublime. Ecological anxiety examines the fraught, often destructive interactions between modern humanity and marine life amid escalating environmental crisis. For UGC NET English Literature exam, you must anchor your preparation to these major texts and their core conceptual angles. Moby Dick by Herman Melville explores relentless oceanic obsession, metaphysical inquiry, and complex eco-symbolism. The Sea is History by Derek Walcott, a magnificent post-colonial poem utilizing maritime imagery to effect a poetic recovery of historical memory and the horrors of The Middle Passage, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by S.T. Coleridge, a foundational romantic text dealing with profound guilt, the transgression of ecological ethics, and spiritual transformation at sea. Sea of Poppies by Amitabh Ghosh tracks the intricate machinery of colonial trade, networks opium cultivation, indentured labor ships, the Abyss is the name of the ship, and the violent geopolitics of the 19th century, Indian Oceanic World. To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf employs fluid internal time, memory, and powerful coastal imagery of the crashing waves to structure human consciousness. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad uses the river journey as a psychological and imperial penetration into the dark abyss of European colonialism. The Tempest by William Shakespeare centers on shipwreck dynamics, isolated islands, geography, magic, and proto-colonial power dynamics. Let us look closer at specific text that defines the explicit modern canon of Blue Humanities and Ocean Studies. Viti Ihamaera's The Whale Rider investigates the intricate sacred interplay between Maori ancestral mythology, tribal lineage, and contemporary marine identity. Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe remains the quintessential baseline text, examining individual survival, shipwreck logistics, and early imperial acquisition. Elizabeth Delaury's Allegory of the Anthropocene provides cutting-edge theoretical analysis of island ecologies, militarization, and post-colonial ocean studies. Dan Brayton's Shakespeare's Ocean offers an essential eco-critical evaluation of aquatic metaphors and sea texts across Renaissance English literature. Finally, Stephen Mentz landmark studies shipwreck modernity and ocean connects oceanic environments with human experiences of failure, global modernity, and deep philosophical meditations on the sea's central role in human cultural history. To conclude, why is this paradigm shift so critical for researchers and exam aspirants today? The Blue Humanities is currently one of the fastest growing and most dynamic areas of research in literary and cultural studies. Recent research trends focus heavily on specialized branches like Shakespearean Blue Humanities, diasporic maritime migrations, and feminist Blue Humanities. For Ph.D. aspirants and students tackling highly competitive exams like the UGC NET, mastering this interdisciplinary bridge between literature and environmental studies is no longer optional. It is essential for scoring top ranks. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best for your future research.